Thank you. It is deeply humbling to stand here. You hear about meeting your idols, but to stand in a room of them and then to have to speak after them is both heaven and one strange form of hell. But I'm the daughter of ministers, so I will work my way through it. Just pray for me. But I am deeply honored to be the first recipient of the Gabrielle Giffords Award. Like all of you, I have the deepest admiration for her fortitude, her humility, and her refusal to back down to anyone or anything. Please join me in thanking her yet again. And I remain indebted to Stephanie Shriak and to Emily's List for their determination to lift up women on the state and local level, like Lucy Flores and Aja Brown, Niley Rosick and Rashida Tlaib, Morgan Carroll and Nan Whaley, my fellow nominees. And I'm fairly certain I just barely inched them out because I read their bios. I think I voted for one of them. Now, I'm honored to stand here today because I come from a family of first. My mother, Carolyn Abrams, is the first person in her family to graduate from high school, the first to attend college. My father was the first man in his family to graduate from high school and attend college, and I will tell you that my dad was the first feminist I ever met. My parents came together in high school, mainly because my father, I think, mildly stalked my mom because he thought she was smart and cute. But he managed to make her fall in love with him, and they decided to build a life together. They came together and thought about how could they be first? How could they be the first to break the cycles of poverty that had held their families down? My dad likes to joke that he was from the wrong side of the track, and my mom was from the wrong side of the tracks. But they came together and they decided that they would make something of themselves. They went to college together. My mom was admitted to the University of Wisconsin, where she graduated with a master's. That's my calling card to Tammy Baldwin, that I was born in Wisconsin. But my parents decided to go back to their home state of Mississippi, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in a place that had a complicated history and a complicated relationship with government. A place where if you wanted to try and strive, you might escape. And it's a little bit like Terry Sewell's Alabama. They come up with way interesting ways to keep you down if they want to. But my parents believed that education was going to be the key that unlocked our future. And they worked their way up. My mom is a college librarian who eventually became the chair of the library. My dad is a dock worker in Mississippi who eventually became a shipbuilder. But unfortunately, their education and their training did not save them from the cycles of poverty that too often hit our working families. Despite both working full-time jobs, because they had 6 kids and lived in a state that didn't quite value equality, my parents would often fall into destitution. We would be on welfare sometimes. We would need a little bit of help with our electric bill. But the choices my parents made were the right choices, because sometimes we went out without running water in our house because my parents wanted to pay for my sister's clarinet lessons. Or we couldn't afford the electric bill because they had to pay for debate camp for me and football camp for my brothers. My parents put education first every single time. I grew up in a family that prized the future with a passion few can possess unless you've seen it slip away time and time again. My mother liked to jokingly call us the genteel poor. We had no money, but we had class and we watched PBS. And my parents would tell us that no matter how little we had, there was always someone with less, and it was our job to serve that person. Because it wasn't sufficient for us to whine about the fact that we didn't have running water. They wanted to make sure we understood there were people without homes. And when we complained about the fact that our friends at the school got to go on vacations and we didn't, my parents took us to the Juvenile Justice Center so we could see kids who had no future. My parents believed that you didn't just tell us, that you showed us. And they did again and again. And when I saw today the sign that said, "We will be heard," I understood what my parents had been telling me for so long. They wanted us to be heard. They wanted the legacy that they wanted for their children to be real. They wanted us to be first. They wanted us to understand what it meant to not only be, but to serve and to do. And so my parents decided to create a new family, a family where their children would take college for granted and where every future we imagined could be achieved. And having 6 children in Mississippi, that's not easy to do, especially when they're all our skin color. But what my parents achieved in one generation was that of their 6 children, all 6 of us went to college, and we have 2 PhDs, 2 law degrees, and 3 master's degrees among us. Now, I brag on my family because this is what America should be, and this is what Emily's List strives for. My parents were heard because they believed that it was insufficient to simply help their children. They were obligated to help their community. They were obligated to stand up and speak out against bigotry, against the permanence of poverty, against a criminal justice system that did not serve justice. They believed that they had to do more if their children and their families and their world were to succeed. And so I got bitten by the bug. My parents became ministers, and I shied as far away from that as possible because I really don't like going to church that much. But I did understand their legacy of first. I understood what they meant when they told us that we had to speak truth to power if we wanted power to respect us. And so I ran for office. In 2006, I stood for office. I ran for the state legislature because I needed to ignite change. Because I believed it was wrong to live in a space where the voice of reason said that it was wrong to expand where it was right to expand where we could carry weapons, but wrong to expand where we had good schools. I refused to be in a place where you could fight for liberty by saying that it was your freedom to do what you wanted unless what you wanted to do was control your own body and marry who you loved. I ran for office. I ran for office because I believe that you have to fight to protect the elderly, that you must stand for immigrants and be their voice, no matter what language they speak, and that working families simply looking for a way forward should not be denied access because they had the misfortune of not being born to privilege. I believe that poverty is immoral and is economically inefficient, and I believe that Democrats need to understand that it's okay to talk about tax policy, that we should be as loud and as vociferous about our issues when it comes to expanding the earned income tax credit and the child care tax credit as the other side is talking about the capital gains tax and the estate tax. Democrats, and especially Democratic women, have to be willing to meet pablum with proof. We cannot stand quietly by and allow them to take away our voices and refuse our choices and then wonder what happened. So I not only ran for the legislature, but in 2010, after serving for 4 long years, I decided I should be the leader. Stephanie was kind enough to read my bio, but I want to tell you what it meant. When I ran for leader, I told my colleagues a very simple thing. We had come from being in power for a very long time to losing it. And what I said is, look, I've been a minority for a very long time, and I am really good at it. Our job for the past 4 years has been to stop stupid or at least slow it down. And under the leadership of strong Democratic women and Democratic men, we have been able to slow down a lot of dumb bills. Some of them have escaped, but we're working on that too, beginning with Michelle Nunn running for the U.S. Senate. But I'm here to tell you a secret. I am tired of being first. I want to be last. I want to be the last person who has to demand that we fully fund public education and defend it against privatization. I want to be the last one who has to go to the well to fight bills to drug test the poor at the same time that we expand tax credits for the rich. I want to be the last one who has to first pay homage to the Second Amendment before I explain that guns everywhere is wrong. I believe that it is important that Emily's List make every one of us last. I want to be the last Democratic leader in Georgia who is called the minority leader. I want to join Nancy Pelosi as becoming Speaker. I want to be the last woman. I want to be the very last woman who has to explain to Republicans that my body is not a place for experimental social policy. Because of my parents, because of Robert and Carolyn Abrams, because of Senator Dianne Feinstein and Senator Barbara Boxer, because of Nancy Pelosi and Terry Sewell, because of Emily's List, because of Ellen Malcolm's Dream in a Basement, and Stephanie Shriak's leadership and vision, I stand here today, the beginning of Rising Stars, because we will populate the heavens and we will all become last. We will be the last ones to have to demand our rights, and we will be the first ones to say thank you. Thank you for having me here, and let's first become last. Thank you.